So the new Soundboks is perhaps my most favorite thing that I've reviewed in 2019. And ever since it came out, this Soundboks has been my go-to speaker for almost everything. Whether I'm getting B-roll or if I'm going to hang out with my friends, the Soundboks is usually my first choice. But now, the new Soundboks has gotten a significant firmware update and app, which brings new features to the Soundboks and quality of life improvements. So the first most notable thing that this new firmware update brings to the new Soundboks is that it now automatically pairs to your phone whenever you power it up. So now whenever you turn on your Soundboks, you don't gotta go into your phone's Bluetooth list and manually connect it. Now obviously this is very simple, but for some reason the Soundboks just didn't do this before. So it's really nice that it does now. It's also very nice that you now have full control over the speaker's control panel straight from the app. So you can now remotely raise or lower the volume of the speaker, or you can even toggle between the speaker's team-up settings. Now, just keep in mind, the Soundboks has its own local volume, and then there's the volume of whatever device you're streaming from. So even if your phone is at max volume, it doesn't mean that the Soundboks is at max volume. So now if you want to crank the speaker up all the way up to 11, you can do so straight from the app. You don't have to actually walk up to it anymore and actually crank the dial up. And you can also now adjust the gain of the two XLR inputs on the Pro panel on the back. So overall, like I said, this new firmware update and app just bring a lot of major quality of life improvements to the new Soundboks. Because another major quality of life improvement that I want to point out is that you can now remotely power the speaker off straight from the app. So now when you're done using the speaker, you don't gotta get up to turn it off. The only thing that I feel that's still kind of missing on this speaker and its app is being able to tell at what battery percentage it's at, because the app still doesn't tell you that. Because for right now, the only way to tell what battery percentage the speaker's at is by pressing the button on its battery. But one more improvement that I want to point out on the speaker is that there's no longer any latency whenever I watch videos on my phone, ever since I got the new firmware update. Now, this is nice and all, but I rarely watch videos with this speaker, but I still wanted to point it out. But now let's talk about the new sound modes found on this speaker. Now first off, there's power, which is the default that the Soundboks has always had. And if you want to get the best performance out of the speaker, then power is still the best way to go. But now there's an indoor mode which basically does two things. First off, it reduces the amount of bass the speaker has so that it's not going to shake the walls in your house. And as a result, it also helps extend its battery life. And then there's Bass Plus, which does the opposite of what indoor mode does. Bass Plus increases the amount of bass the speaker has, and I want to say it's double of the amount of bass that's found when this speaker is set to power mode. But the biggest trade-off here is that Bass Plus really reduces the overall battery life of the speaker. But overall, the new sound modes doesn't really change the sound signature of this speaker. All they really do is just increase or decrease the amount of bass the speaker has. But so that you can see for yourself, we're going to jump into a sound test. Now, just as a heads up, I'm going to be including the JBL PartyBox 300 merely as a reference point, because it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, because this speaker costs twice as much as the PartyBox.
I wanna get you one more time. I really wanna cross the line. I do it all before I die. I wanna get it on tonight. I wanna get you one more time. I really wanna cross the line. I wanna get you one more time. One more time. One more time. One more time. I want it one more time. I really need to make it right. Energy I overdose, 'cause I'm ready to reload. I need it one more time, but baby then again twice. But I don't know if I'm ready to let go. I'm gonna have you one more time. I'm gonna hit it one more night with you. With you. I am committed 'cause I am with you. I wanna hope I'll never see you go home. I'll come along. I'm gonna have you one more time. I'm gonna have you one more night. I wanna get you one more time. I really wanna cross the line. I do it all before I die. I wanna get it on tonight. I wanna get you one more time. I really wanna cross the line. get you one more time. I really wanna cross the line. I do it all before I die. I wanna get it on tonight. I wanna get you one more time. I really wanna cross the line. I wanna get you one more time, one more time, one more time, one more time.
So, like you may have just heard, these new sound modes doesn't really change the overall sound signature of the speaker, which I think is great because the Soundboks has great clarity and a very open soundstage, and I would hate for any of that to change. So overall, these new sound modes are really just changing the amount of bass the speaker is putting out. But still, if you want to get the best performance out of the speaker, power is still the way to go because that's when the speaker can get the loudest. Whereas when the speaker is set to indoor mode, that's when this speaker gets the quietest. I actually want to say that when this speaker is set to indoor mode, it starts to perform very similarly to the PartyBox 300. They both get just as loud and they're both putting out the same amount of bass. But I will admit, Bass Plus is pretty fun. Now, it's complete overkill and it can definitely get overwhelming if you're using this speaker indoors. But Bass Plus can be useful if you're using the speaker outside and if you still want to physically feel your bass. So overall, I'm very pleased with Soundboks' new sound modes. But I still kind of wish that the Soundboks had a dedicated outdoors mode, similar to what's found on the JBL Boombox. Have the Soundboks set to a brighter sound signature and reduce the bass a little bit so that it can get louder and so that the sound can travel out a little farther, and so that its battery life can be increased a little bit. So overall, I'm very pleased with this new firmware update and app from Soundboks. Now, the majority of it is quality of life improvements, which just make the speaker a lot easier to use compared to before. And then there are the new sound modes, which I definitely do appreciate, but personally, I'm still going to be sticking to power mode. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit that like button and get subscribed. It helps out more than you realize. If you want to pick any of the products up mentioned in this video, those will be linked in the description down below, and you can also support the channel by checking out the merch store. But other than that, I'll catch you next time.